ask yourself why, during World War II, that Jews were completely safe in Japan. If Jews were in Japan, which is was not a Christian country, there's no problem. Even though the Japanese were allies of the Nazis, of the Germans, no problem. And in fact, my yeshiva, the Mir, was saved in Japan. Why is it only Christian countries not only permitted the Holocaust, the destruction of European Jewry, but actively are involved in the Holocaust? Why? Why not Buddhist countries? Why not Hindu countries? Why only Christian countries? Stop and think. And incidentally, you say they were Catholic. It's all nonsense. The majority of Germans during World War II were Protestant, not Catholics.
I might have time for two more, but here we go. Gideon, you are live on the air. Go ahead and present your question to Rabbi. This is Gideon from the Netherlands, no less.
Yes, thank you.
Nice.
Hello, Rabbi. I'm calling you indeed from the Netherlands. I have a question. So I am considering actually embracing the religion of my ancestors, which is Judaism, of my paternal side, and I'm still following Christianity. And the reason I'm reconsidering following Christianity is actually because of one verse, and that is verse Zechariah 8:23, where 10 Gentiles grab the hem of a Jew and say, let's follow you because we've seen that God is with you. And once you said, Rabbi, that the Nazarenes and the Ebionites were the original Jewish sect of Christianity, well, I think they fully disappeared. So it's impossible for Christianity to fulfill this verse, and if the Messianic Jews, my good friends, would say it's them fulfilling this verse, well, they were first converted by Gentiles. So in my view, it's completely impossible for Christianity to fulfill this verse, and it could be a deal breaker for me to stop following Christianity. So my question to you, Rabbi, is Zechariah 8:23 a potential deal breaker for Christianity?
You're absolutely correct. In Zechariah chapter 8, it's a soaring chapter. It's messianic, delightful, all messianic from beginning to end. It says that at the end of the days that 10 of the nations of the world, the Gentiles of the nations of the world will grab the shirt of a Jew. Why does it say he'll grab his shirt? The Knaf Yehudi. Why do you have to grab his shirt? Why can't you say, excuse me, why do you have to grab shirts? I don't grab it. Because the Jews went through such a long exile that the Jew might run away and say, well, they hate us in the Netherlands. So don't let go of us. Even if we don't know what to do with you, we've been through a tough time. The Netherlands wasn't so good to us during the World War II. And they're still not so nice to us today. So you're right. So if the Jews, and what do the Gentiles say? The Gentiles say, Nelcha imochem, let us go with you, and that's plural, imochem, ki shamanu, because we have heard, Elohim imochem, that God is with you. It means the Jews have the truth. If the Christians have the truth, then if Christianity was a true religion, then the Jews are so wrong. We don't believe in the Trinity. We don't believe in Jesus Messiah. We don't believe in any of that, right? So why would anyone come to Jews? It should say, if Christianity was a true religion, that the Jews will come to the Christians and say, now we knew all along that we killed Jesus and you were right all along and the new covenant, all that silliness. You're right, absolutely correct. So it's absolutely correct. It says, the Mamish Knaf Yehudi, it says the Jew. Is really vital. And you touched on something. I don't know if you intentionally, deliberately did it or you just said it. Is a very important thing. So corporate Israel cannot disappear because Hashem made a covenant with the children of Israel. When I am doing what I do as an example, William and I do as an example, we're not trying to prevent the Jews from disappearing. We can't because of a promise that God made to our forefathers. And it says explicitly in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 7, 8, it says, I didn't choose you because you're so numerous, you're the fewest of all the nations, but it's the promise that I made to your forefathers. Now, national Israel has no free will, and that means the nation must be preserved. And we stand as a testimony so that it testifies to God that the Jews should survive and all the other nations disappear. So corporate Israel, the nation of Israel, cannot disappear, no matter what. The reason we're doing what we do is to make sure that you don't give up your seat on the bus. The bus will go with you or without you. Come home. But it's going with you or without you. The nation of Israel will be preserved to the end of the days, and this stanza bears witness to the God of Israel. Listen very carefully. If we go to Deuteronomy 7, verse 9, and is repeated again in verse 12, there's a condition placed on the preservation of which Jews are preserved. Every Jew? No. So we're told, so corporate Israel has no free will because there'll always be a faithful remnant. See Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 12 through 16. However, who will be a part of this remnant? So there's two conditions that we see there, that Hashem keeps his covenant to those who love him and keep his Torah. It says it explicitly, I beg you, I plead with you. Deuteronomy 7, verse 9 says explicitly that Hashem will maintain his covenant, not with everybody, but only those who love him and keep the commandments. Those who do not serve God in truth, but those who turn away, they're lost forever. And where are the great-grandchildren of the Jews who became Christians in the early centuries of the church? They're all lost. They disappeared. Peter's grandchildren are not among us today. He had a family. They're all gone. But Hashem is Shemer HaBris VaChesed LaHavav, to those who love him, U'Shemrei Mitzvosav, and to those who keep his commands, LaElav Dar, 1,000 generations. That's what it says. And therefore, this is a proof that Christianity isn't true, because all the Jews that did become Christians, or the Jews who were the Sadducees, who didn't believe in the oral Torah, didn't believe in the resurrection, they're all gone. They've all disappeared. And the only Jews that are alive today are those who are the descendants of those who kept the written and oral Torah and utterly rejected every other religion. And Christianity cannot explain this away in for a second. I've heard missionaries try to explain it. Missionaries say really silly things like, well, the Jews persecuted the early Christians and therefore they weren't able to continue. The whole point is that I'm going to protect you despite your vicissitudes. Read Isaiah 43, verse 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's all so beautiful. But it tells us that the fires won't touch you, the waters won't touch you. This is something no Christian can answer. Why is it that the Jews today are the great-grandchildren of Jews who are completely religious Orthodox Jews? You will meet many Jews today who are not religious at all, not at all. But if you ask these people, your great-great-grandparents, were they religious or were they not? They'll tell you they were religious Jews. They'll tell you even that my great-great-grandfather was the chief rabbi of Prague. He was the chief rabbi of Lublin. He was the chief rabbi of Krakow. He was the chief rabbi. Because if he wasn't the chief rabbi, he was the chief rabbi of Mount Rushmore. If he wasn't the chief rabbi, he wouldn't even make it this far. Why is that? Because they're the only preserved. And if Jews have lost their way and became irreligious, it really only happened in the last 3, 4, 5 generations, because of tremendous forces of assimilation that seized the United States, that seized Jews all over the world, and Jews who were escaping persecution. I mean, Mahler, the composer, why did he convert to Catholicism? He converted because they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him to run the orchestra unless he got baptized. So he did it. I mean, for a whole sort of reasons, Jews. But this is all in the recent past. Why did Karl Marx's grandparents convert to Christianity? They did it because for all kinds of stupid reasons, whatever. So this is very, very critical. Now, we do not have the writings of the Nazarenes and Ebionites. They don't survive. However, the only thing we know about them is from their interlocutors, from their enemies. But you could be sure they were there. This you could be certain of. In the Christian Bible, when Paul is excoriating the Galatians, you see in chapter 3, there's no way in the world that this problem of Jews who were early Christians telling non-Jews that they had to become Jewish and keep mitzvot, there's no way that was invented. That is not legend. That is not myth. That is historical. Why? It's very embarrassing, frankly. So you can be sure you can't bank on anything in the New Testament. But like every fiction, there's a little bit of truth. That is for sure true. But their descendants were lost completely unless they repented. And I'm sure there were many people who originally were part of this Christian movement, that they saw what happened to it and all their beliefs were disconfirmed and they returned back. That I don't know about. But all the church became completely not Jewish. All the Jews who converted, they were all, the Ebionite movement, the Nazarene movement, were all crushed. We know this historically. We know this from the patristic fathers. They all wrote about this. They all wrote how they did everything possible to crush any kind of Ebionite movement, any kind of early Christian movement that celebrated anything Jewish. Justinian, who was a 6th century, he was a very evil man. He made it forbidden in the Byzantine Empire for Jews to even pray in Hebrew. Jews were only allowed to pray and practice our liturgy in Latin or Greek. He was a horrible person, evil. They did this to us routinely. But one of the things that was, you have to remember that after the end of the 4th century, Christianity was not just a legal religion in the empire, it became the official religion in the Roman Empire. It doesn't mean Judaism was crushed. It wasn't. Jews were allowed to practice, but it was under tremendous difficulty. In the Roman Empire, it was horrible. I'm talking about the Byzantine Empire. In the Byzantine Empire, 330 and forward. You know what we had it off? We had a vacation from the Christians. When? We had a vacation where Jews had it good when we had an emperor who was not Christian. Julian becomes emperor of Rome in 361 for not a long time. Julian didn't believe in Christianity. They called him Julian the Apostate. So because he didn't believe in Christianity, I mean, every Christian watching me now, think. So because he didn't believe in Christianity, he said Jews can go back to Jerusalem, and all the persecution against the Jews finished. He even encouraged the Jews to reform a Sanhedrin. He unfortunately didn't stick around very long. I mean, look, I was thinking about this today. Why? Ask yourself, why, during World War II, that Jews were completely safe in Japan? If Jews were in Japan, which is not a Christian, was not a Christian country, there's no problem. Even though the Japanese were allies of the Nazis, of the Germans, no problem. And in fact, my yeshiva, the Mir, was saved in Japan. Why is it only Christian countries not only permitted the Holocaust, the destruction of European Jewry, but actively are involved in the Holocaust? Why? Why not Buddhist countries? Why not Hindu countries? Why only Christian countries? Stop and think. And incidentally, you say they were Catholic. It's all nonsense. The majority of Germans during World War II were Protestant, not Catholics. There was a very significant Catholic population in Germany, but the majority of them were Protestants, majority Lutherans. So you have to ask yourselves these questions, my friends. You must answer the question of why did thousands of Jewish people who were able to cross from China into Japan during the heat of the Holocaust were protected by the Japanese? Why? Who were allies of the Germans, who were perplexed and why the Germans hated the Jews so much. And when they asked rabbis, why do the Germans hate you so much, the rabbis answered them very cleverly, said, because we're Asians, because we come from Southwest Asia. So that's the key part of the whole thing. You have to ask this question. The real Christian loves the Jews. Why is it that the Hindus and Buddhists and the whatever you had in Japan, they worship the emperor? Why didn't they persecute Jews? They certainly weren't real Christians. The key part you touched on is very, very important. The covenant is only preserved among those who keep the Torah, the written and oral Torah, and utterly reject every other religion in the world. That is clearly expressed in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9. And look at verse 12. And what you raised in Zechariah chapter 8, verse 23. And therefore I implore you, from the Netherlands. Please look into your genealogy, study your mother's matrilineal line. If you can't find it, you should become a Noachide, or if you're so called, you should become a Ger Tzedek and convert to Judaism. That's between you and God. Thank you for your thoughtful question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ואת נעשה בחפצו כל